on, I'm working. You go settle down. She will. You go settle down. That's a good girl. You just settle down. That's my girl. All right, so here's this thing that I pulled, the long thing that I pulled. Now I'm going to cut off the seaweed, which I'm going to use later, and I'll pop it up there for now. Whoops. And I'm going to cut some chips. This is still warm, that I'm going to use as shells. So this is a brilliant cutter somebody turned me on to. Better than any one I've ever had. And the make is Latticino G3OC, and it's brilliant, just so you know. Oh, and you know, your fingers get a bit pinched with this, but see, it's white in the middle, and that's really important. It's white in the middle. So there we have them. Those will ultimately be shells, and in them there's a little tiny bit of sparkling dichroic. The torch with one hand, because that's how you're going to be doing it when you're working, and your hands need to know exactly how it works. Okay, so I'm going to just because it's quicker, I'm going to put this here so that I've got something to rest on, and then I'm going to let's see, what am I going to do? Oh yeah, I'm going to make a bead and show you how I use. I'm not going to make a sort of a fancy bead. I'm just going to make a basic bead and show you how I make shells and how I trail the sort of Latticino-y part around and move it around. I'm going to demystify some of the things I do. Of course, it's not very mysterious to the really experienced glass workers, but I'm here for the newbies. I'm here for the newbies. So when you put your glass down, and I don't usually cut a long strip and do it this way. I actually, you'll see I work a completely different way. I've always felt that cutting long strips and using them like rods was kind of boring, but I just want to make a nice quick bead for you this way. And I'll show you other ways. And also you can go onto YouTube and see how I work. My films on YouTube I made in the 90s. And it was before I even had a digital camera, and I certainly didn't know much about filming. But my son Noah, who was about 19 when that's happened, I used to fly him in from California to film. And one of the films was made by a man who came in to do it, and then we went to Las Vegas. I was demonstrating for Spectrum Glass. He filmed me. He filmed all kinds of people, interviewed them about me, made a whole film about me, and then didn't give it to me. So somewhere out there, there's basically a film that is stolen property. It might turn up, might turn up after I die, perhaps. I just thought I'd put that out there. That's probably about enough. So I'll turn the flame up and round this off. Now normally when I'm working on filming, I kind of do all this quickly. I do all this sort of off camera so that you don't have to watch me do it, but you know what I mean. But this time I'm just going to show you. One of the things I want to say about when you're making a bead is that you can look at it, you know, to see if it's a shape that you want or whatever. But the fact is, if a bead is out of center, it's your hand that will tell you if it's out of center. Now I'm not here to make an absolutely fabulous bead today. I just want to show you enough of a bead to demonstrate how I use the stuff. So that'll do. It's just a basic bead. Okay, so here are my little cut pieces, and I'm going to turn it down a bit, just a bit, just like And then I'm going to let it cool enough. Always a good idea. And then I'm going to take this, I'm going to take a nice big one, You heat it in the flame. You have to do that, otherwise it kind of explodes. Then you heat a spot on your bead. Put it on. Whoops. This one chipped off a bit, but it doesn't matter. Get it nice and warm so it can really spread. And then you spread it. You spread it. It may not look like much now, but it will. So let's see, here's another one. I'm just going to put 3 on because I also want to put on some of that other. There we go. Heat it up from both sides. Mash it on. And you can get it fairly scented. Now there's various things you can do with this. You can poke a hole in the middle of it nice and deep, and then take clear, melt it, and drop it onto it like a lens, and the hole, the air in the hole will expand, and you'll have what I call a bubble bead. That's one of the nice things to do. I can demonstrate that for you another day. I'm just going to put 3 of these in here. There we go. There we go. So now I'm just going to, before I do anything else with those, I'm going to trail. When you're going to work with your turny twisty, always cut the end off. Make it clean when you start. Otherwise, you start out with a blob. And let's see. I'll just turn this down a bit more. And I'm just going to kind of wander around. Good idea to warm it up first in case there's some air in it. And then I'm just going to kind of like, I just want to show you how I wander around with it. Whoops. Catch it. Just going to do it. Like I say, this was not supposed to be an earth-shattering bead. I'm just kind of demonstrating various things for you. Okay. So I'm going to get it all in. Move it in. And what's nice about it is it sort of spreads. And you see the magic. Right. Turn it up a little bit more. Now what I want to do is I want it all to melt in. And by the way, when you're doing dots, make sure that you never leave a sort of an undercut in the dot. It must always be a hemisphere that sits close to the bead, because if there's any kind of undercut, in time, it'll pop off. I see a lot of beautiful beads with raised dots on them, and I can immediately tell whether the bead is going to last. Of course, Christina Logan was the pioneer. God, Christina Logan's beads are so amazing. You know, we all started this round about the same time, and we shared our knowledge with one another, which is one of the reasons why the bead business flourished so much, is because we were very, most of us were very uncompetitive. We knew that if we taught people something, they might copy us to begin with, but they would eventually break away into their own. So that's about as much as I'm going to twist it at the moment, because here comes my magic wand. And with my magic wand, I go into the shell, I go into the twist, to the side of it, and in goes the shell. You blow it to break off the clear. Here's another one. And there's another shell. And in this, in daylight particularly, you can see this tiny little bit of dichroic that just gives it that magic. Now you can also go into the middle of one and just twist that. That's a different design. And in fact, you can even go into that, pierce it. You can put another, you can just keep on piling them on. Now for these here, I'm just going to kind of twist some of them for you, just to show you. This is a pretty off-the-wall bead, but I'm just trying to show you grace. That's what I call it. When you actually twist something, you can give it grace. This is probably one of the most funky beads I've ever made, but it's not about proving anything. It's about showing you techniques. That's all. Let's see, just any old way. Just go in, get it nice and soft, and play with it. Just play with it. You will explore, you will explore, you will find. Now this one, for instance, I think could be better. So I'm going to make it a bigger turn in it. And here, see? Now you could be making snakes and just putting an eye on that one. And then, actually, because you've got a little bit of a space, I'll show you something else. This is just a sort of a sample. But we've got some space here, so I'll show you another little something which you probably really do know, but I'm going to show you anyway. Make 3 dots, like that. Melt them in. Go into the middle. Up. No, no, no. Go into the middle. And twist it. And you just get another design. So simple. But these are all little things. I didn't even catch that last one, so we can make a paisley over here. You know, I mean, I can play all day, but these are just a few things that you can do on a bead. Now I'm going to actually cook it up and see how it really is. This is a pretty off-the-wall bead, but I haven't been near this table and this glass for months. But I am intending to get back to making the tree beads, the tide pool beads. But you see, you've got shells. You've got a little bit of how you twist the Latticino. You've got a little bit of how you do. I'm so tempted to flatten it. See what happens then. I'm so tempted to flatten it. See what happens. Maybe I should. After all, we're just goofing. All right, folks. We can edit this out, but I'm going to give it a go. Let me see, where shall I flatten it? I'll flatten it there. You know, you sort of get, once you flatten something, you can really get a lot of good things happening to it. So let's take this and just put something right here, a nice big one of those. Flatten that. It's just the end of a twisty. That makes a whole other thing. And if you want to do paisley, like I told you, paisley's pretty easy. You just go into some part of it and twist. And you get paisley. So that's about it, I suppose. I don't have my stars handy, otherwise I'd start putting them around too. So there, hang on, let me just get, then you have to go in and take out the, what do they call it? The chill marks, we call them. So, you know, it's just a funny little bead, really. Just a funny little bead. It's kind of messy. but it showed you a few techniques. You've got to stop shaking, Kate. You've got to stop shaking. I always pride myself on not shaking, but for some reason today, there was too much.